Shabbat Shalom. Okay, we're down to the last Shabbat before Rabbi Kornberg returns. Everything's going smoothly. So I'm going to ask a little bit of a challenging question, and I'm going to ask everyone to answer it generally, okay, generally. So the question is going to be, should anyone be excluded from the Jewish community? Okay? And what I want, when you're thinking for answers, I don't want you to be like, yes, Mark better. That would be a specific answer, and Lashon Hara offensive and probably not conducive to anything. But if there's a category of like, oh yeah, or you might say, no one should be excluded, and we're going to explore in this week's Torah portion how the Torah manages this question of should people be excluded or not. So, should anyone be excluded? Michal, yes.
I have a question about your question.
Yes, please.
What do you mean about excluded?
You can answer it however you would like, right? Because we're going to talk a little bit about that, but excluded. Yeah, Mike. Someone who has not accepted the Torah should be excluded. Okay. No, we're welcome. All ideas are welcome. Just we're putting them out here. Yes, Michal.
I want to clarify your question.
Yes, please, Michal.
Did you mean who should be excluded from Am Yisrael?
Sure.
Oh, well then I totally disagree with the answer about not accepting Torah because I am perfectly happy personally to accept Jews who just feel part of the Jewish people because they feel connected historically, culturally, etc., but they don't buy into a lot of theology, and practice that's laid out in the Torah. I would really hate to exclude them because I think we would just be like maybe 8 million, 6 million. I'm not even sure how many million we would be there.
Thank you, Michal, for your answer. Let me add one more category of everyone's welcome to answer the question, right, of who should be excluded, but let's reserve comment about everyone's answers, and because that's not what I'm looking for, okay? And you can even say something and say, well, this could be the answer, but you might personally disagree with the answer. That's also okay. Okay, so, and you're welcome to say, Rabbi, I think no one should be excluded, and that's a good answer. Yes. Do you want to try it one more time, Michal? Yes. Your answer.
I'm just not sure.
Okay.
Well, I don't know what exclusion really means. I mean, Spinoza was excluded from the Dutch community, and here he is one of the most famous and important Jewish philosophers ever, philosophers in general.
Yeah.
So I really hate the word exclusion, but
Yep.
for me personally, the problem goes to anti-Zionist Jews. But even they perhaps can be convinced. I don't know. Some of them are.
I'll stop. You gave an answer. People that might be against the state of Israel. Okay. Anti-Zionists. Okay.
I still want to try to
Okay.
convince them.
Okay. And you're torn on that. Okay. Good. Yes, Brian. Noah. Oh, no. No one should be excluded. Okay, great. Wonderful. Anyone else? Yeah, Judy.
I was going to say the same thing. Nobody should be excluded because everyone has the potential to accept Judaism if they so choose.
No one should be excluded because everyone has the potential of returning. We're going to go with Mark, and then we'll have Mike again. Yeah.
In order to be brought back in,
Yeah.
I'll say no.
Okay.
Because the wonderful thing about Judaism, there's so many facets to it
Mm-hmm.
that everybody really is Jewish, no matter what they think of it or how they approach it.
There's many different ways of having Jewish identity, so we should be careful about highlighting one aspect of identity before we exclude. Very nice. Mike? Yes, please, Mike.
I try to relate my answers to the Parasha.
Yes.
Therefore, I think there are some exclusions
Yeah.
that are listed.
And we will see some exclusions, 100%. Yeah, Tom?
I'm definitely going to throw in idol worshippers because I don't think that.
No idol worshipers here. Okay. Idol worshipers. Okay, good. Yeah. Very good. Yes.
Okay, I guess for me, sorry, I've been thinking out loud here too much. But
Please, Michal.
I feel like those who want to kill or destroy Jews should be excluded.
Okay. Right. There is a concept called a rodef, right? Someone who is actively pursuing to hurt or destroy you. Those people should be excluded. Okay, good. Anyone else? Hillary. Wonderful. Your second point was so great, I forgot what your first point was. But your first point was there might be people who choose not to be included, so then we don't need to include someone who chooses not to be included. Okay, good. It is a hot topic, everyone. My other question that I thought about using to start the conversation was who deserves to be canceled. But that is its own answer, and the Torah doesn't use canceling, it uses its own language. And in our day and age, we often think about who belongs under the tent of Judaism and who should be removed. And in this day and age, it's very easy to remove those that we either disagree with or make us uncomfortable. And yet, we struggle with what is our identity and who should be in the tent and who should not be in the tent. That is what is talked about in this week's Torah portion. We're now in the book of Numbers. The beginning of Numbers is literally that, numbers. And what are the numbers of? The people of Israel, each tribe. And each tribe is being counted, or at least the men of fighting age are being counted. And we get to just over 600,000. And the Torah spends a lot of verbiage to make sure that every name and every family is mentioned, hinting at this idea that people matter. Then we're going to have the middle of this week's Torah portion, which we're going to get to. And then we talk about the end, about what is the offerings that everyone should bring forward. So what's going on in these middle sections when we go from counting everyone until the end of what everyone should bring? Well, I invite everyone to open up to chapter 5 of the book of Numbers, page 793. Vaydaber Adonai el Moshe lemor. God says to Moses, Tzav at Bnei Israel, command the people of Israel. And here is a phrase we're going to see 3 times. Vayshalchu min hamachaneh. Send them out of the camp. Who are we sending out of the camp? Kol tzarua v'chol zav v'chol tameh lanefesh. I read that the eruption or the discharge or anyone defiled by a corpse. The next verse, Mizachar ad nekeva, man or woman, tishalchu el michutz lamachaneh. Doesn't matter their gender, they should be sent out from the camp. Tishlu michutz lamachaneh. Tishalchum velo yitamu, and so that they may not defile the camp, asher ani shochen betocham, where I am dwelling. Vayasuchen b'nei Israel, and once again we see the phrase, Vayishalchu otam el michutz lamachaneh. Remove those people from the camp. Now, what's interesting is we already know this law from the book of Leviticus, that someone who has tsarua, a blemish on their skin, is to be removed from the camp. And by the way, when can that person come back to the camp? Are they permanently removed? Say again? No. Hillary? And who determines that they are clean? The priest, the high priest. Okay, and in a beautiful set of Torah, that person has to see the blemish and the entire person. And then there's a process for them to return. So category number 1, those who are displaying unhealthy physical ailments, they are to be sent out. Category number 1. Now we'll go to category number 2. Let's look at verse 5. Vaydaber Adonai el Moshe lemor, daber el bnei Yisrael, ish o isha ki ya'asu mikol chatot adam limol ma'al baronai v'asma hanefesh hahi. When a man or woman commits any wrong towards a fellow man, thus breaking faith with the Lord, and that person realizes his guilt, he shall confess the wrong that he has done. He shall make restitution in the principal amount and add 1/5 to it, giving it to him whom he has wronged. If the man has no okay, and then there's a process for how that is handled. So until that moment where the person has fixed that which he has wronged, who is in the second category? Who's in the second category? Some, Hillary? Yeah? If you harm another person. Now there's a restitution. So what are we hinting at right now? Temporary, but we're also hinting at that there was a physical damage, that you caused some type of physical damage to a person, that therefore not only do you have to heal the person, but you have to pay an additional amount on top of that. So how do we compare these first two categories? What is the first category and how does it compare to the second category?
Well, one's moral and one's just happenstance, right? If you have an illness or a disease, you have no choice over that.
One is, okay, beautiful. One is moral, one is happenstance. How do you define moral here, Tom?
Well, it's a choice. Someone makes a choice to harm someone else. Someone doesn't make a choice to have an affliction.
Oh, interesting. So one is making a choice. The other one person does not have a choice. Very nice. Okay, good. Anyone else? Yeah, Mark?
Well, the difference is, in the first case, the person actually has to leave the community.
Yeah.
The second one, they don't have to, but they just have to make restitution or something.
That's very fair. That is according to the text itself. And you're going to see by following the pattern of these four that they all have to deal with exclusion. The rabbis read into it as well. But yes, the first one explicitly says so. And the second one, by the way, in the text hints directly of the return process. Whereas in the first one, we have to, in Leviticus, there's this other set of laws. Okay, good. Hillary?
In ancient times, wasn't it assumed that someone who had physical blemishes or something it was because of something that they did wrong, not because of just happenstance.
Yes. So now compare the first two.
Separated, at this step.
Yes.
Separate them.
Yes.
Makes sense in our time. But I'm not sure they were that separated in their beliefs.
Very nice. So what Hillary's point is, in ancient times, someone who has a physical blemish that was seen as an act of an expression of their guilt for something that they did unethically or immorally. Okay, so now let's put these two together in the following way. Hillary, you have wronged someone. Mark has a blemish. Okay, poor Mark. This is my second example of you. Bless your heart. We all know, at first glance, who do we know that is guilty of being immoral as a community? If we look at the two of you, who do we know committed a crime first? Mark. Okay, Mark. Who would be next? Hillary. And how might we know about Hillary? Because Hillary wronged another person, and when we talk about the ties that link us as a community, it could eventually become known. But it's to a lesser degree than Mark. Now we're going to go to the third category. And we're going to jump ahead to chapter 5, verse 12. The Lord spoke to Moses, saying, "Speak by the people of Israel and say to them, if any man's wife has gone astray and broken faith with him, and that a man has had carnal relations with her unbeknown to her husband, and she keeps secret the fact that she has defiled herself without being forced, and there is no witness against her, la 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 la." You can fill in the blanks because it's 31 verses about the laws of sota. Laws of sota is about the relationship between husband and wife when there is an assumption of whatever that, you know what we're talking about. Okay? And it's not clear if the woman is guilty of it or if the husband is struggling with anxiety, a lack of faith in her. But what I want us to see is if we're going from category 1 to it's known by everyone, category 2, mistake that takes place amongst social communal boundaries, now we are going into the home itself between a husband and a wife. And what we're beginning to see is a pattern of things that we can do that can be the cause of exclusion, beginning in what is known to the entire community and then moving inwards into the home. And the impact is it impacts God. The choices we make impact God, and it impacts the nature of community. So on all three of these fronts, there is an expectation of people that should be excluded or sent out. Now we're going to go to the fourth category, page 799, chapter 6. Vaydaber Adonai el Moshe lemor, daber el bnei Yisrael ve'amarta lehem ish o isha ki yiflo lindor neder nazir hazir ladonai. The Lord spoke to Moses, saying, speak to the Israelites and say to them, if anyone, man or woman, explicitly utters a Nazarite's vow. By the way, what's a Nazarite's vow? You can read ahead in verse 3. Milt, yeah.
Foregoing contact with women.
Yep.
Not drinking alcoholic beverages or eating grapes, and not cutting their hair.
100%. And how do I, and I do those three things, but there's something that I have to do to become a Nazarite. I can't just casually stop all three of those things. I have to do one more thing. I have to make an oath. And not necessarily a public oath. I have to make an oath saying this, I'm committing to these three things. Why? I step away from community and I step closer to God. But this is a personal oath that I make. So look at the chain, look at the pathway. We go from something that is known by the community, something that is known perhaps within communal boundaries, something within the home, and now something that dwells within the heart. A personal choice that I make to exclude myself from the community. I know someone earlier said there's people that choose to exclude themselves. The Nazarite is an interesting example of that. And I think it's placed here, and it's referenced at other times in the Torah, to highlight this pattern of what it means and who to exclude someone. By the way, with all three of these categories, and throw in the Nazarite as well, there is also a pathway back. The Nazarite on verse 13 reads, Vezot Tarat Nazir beyom milaot yemei nizro. On the day that this term of the Nazarite is completed, he shall be brought to the entrance of the tent of meeting. So the Nazarite vow cannot be for eternity. There must be some type of end limit. So, who should be excluded? We see here that the Torah does have categories of people who should be excluded. And it should reflect us that yes, a community can have boundaries. We had COVID, 6 years ago, and yeah, we placed boundaries on who could be here and who could not be here. And there's a debate about how do you draw those lines? When we wrong one another, those choices don't just impact the relationships that we have, but also they impact the relationships shared by the community. When our homes are not complete, that not only impacts ourselves, but it also impacts the community around us. And if I myself choose to exclude myself from the community, by the way, we don't have Nazarites in our Hebrew school, but there's many a student that says, I'm choosing not to go to school, right, for whatever reason, other commitments, and they are not there. And what happens is our community is weaker. We miss them. So there's a consequence in all four of these when someone is not there. Now here's the really cool piece. The Torah doesn't just simply say, yeah, people are excluded, that's it. It does have an answer. Yes, people are excluded, but these categories are right in the middle of two bookends. One, which is that everyone is counted. The second is the offerings that we bring forth. Read into that. Every person has something that they can offer to God, hinting that everyone should be included, because when someone is not there, that is one less offering for God to receive. So the group of individuals that, in cases, that describe people that are excluded are in the midst of a section that deals with the importance of community. And I read into that two things. One is the Torah, the structure of the Torah is trying to reenact Mount Sinai. At Mount Sinai, in the middle of Mount Sinai was God and Moses, but surrounding what Mount Sinai was the people of Israel. We replicate this idea when the people of Israel are going through the wilderness. In the middle is the Mikdash, and it is surrounded by the camp. That the Mikdash, where God dwells, needs the camp. Secondly, and perhaps most importantly, even though there are people who are excluded, the community never abandons their responsibility for them. You may no longer be here, but we still care about you. We are still waiting for you to return. We have still created a pathway for you to return. And we can't go from station to station in the wilderness without carrying you with us. Whether it be physically making sure that the outskirts of the camp are brought in, or the fact that we carry those relationships in our heart when we go from point A to point B to point C to point D. I think what the Torah is hinting at is, do we cancel one another from time to time? And is there times when it's right and when it's wrong? Sure. But the difference of perhaps common culture culturing and common culture canceling and the canceling that's hinted in the Torah is that there's no such thing as an eternal cancellation. Someone can step out. We might need someone to step out, but we still carry them with us. We still carry a hope for their return. And as we think about whether it be the anti-Zionists, whether it be people that have COVID or are sick, whether it be whatever that challenge is, the Jewish approach is never to let go of them in our hearts, to always carry a sense that maybe they will return, and a sense of mourning and grief that we're not complete without their presence. Some words to think about as we deal with the community challenges of our time. Shabbat Shalom.